And the award for maybe having the best game name of this year goes to this one, Haggleoff. Haggleoff. Haggle plus off. For having a Haggleoff, like a haggling off. Okay, this game is almost as silly as it sounds, where it's a political satire game about trying to make the most money by doing a bunch of trade deals to complete sets. A bit like a certain bean game called Bonanza, but now there's some power cards thrown in the mix. With the political satire, you have to worry about taxes at the end of the game, and you can even use an optional browser app to help you keep track of tax write-offs to charity, and there's even stealing from the bank. If I were to describe this in board gaming terms, it's a tableau building trading game, with lots of take that, where turns are timed, and it runs in about an hour to an hour and a half, for 2 to 8 players, but it's really meant for 3 to 8 players. We played it twice at 4 players. This is a sponsored review of a product that is supposedly finalized, so this is not a prototype, but apparently the rulebook is going to get cleaned up for the final version. The pre-orders are live right now. While we never compromise scoring here at Shelfside, it is a sponsored review, so definitely feel free to click off if that sort of thing bothers you. We have plenty of non-sponsored reviews and just content coming up in general. So anyways, now it's time for how to play. The goal of Haggleoff is to have the most Haggleoffs, aka money by the time the game ends, which is when the bank breaks by going to 0. But watch out, you will get taxed according to your certain tax brackets. We'll explain that all soon. To get money, you'll stack sets of animal farm people. I guess characters is the better word. Like the good old Clausby. These will go on property. You start with one property and you can buy more later. On your turn, when you can decide to cash out, you make money equal to how many cards you've stacked. We have 2 of them, so we can make 1 Haggleoff when cashing out. And you can make a lot more if you stack more cards on it. Great, so now let's get to a turn. During your turn, you must draw 3 cards, but you can do that at any time during your turn. Remember, your turn is timed at 60 seconds, and the rest of your actions are optional, such as 1. Playing cards on a property. You just play them to continue a set or start a new one. 2. Cashing out on properties. As explained before, get those Haggleoffs. 3. Making any sort of deal with other players, like saying, I'll trade 2 Wiggies for $1. Or you can even do IOUs, like, I'll give you 1 Clausby now, and you give me 3 Tillies when you get them. Traded cards can be played immediately. 4. Play a power card. You just do what it says. Like here you can play to steal money from the bank. This stealing can get negated by another power card. Number 5. Donating cards to charity. You can send as many normal cards as you want to charity, and once you discard 5, you go up a tax break, which is just less money you'll lose end game. If you discard power cards, each one is worth 1 tax break. Action 6. Take 1 card from charity, add it to your hand. But the moment you take any card from there, your tax break progress goes to 0, if you had any via discarding normal cards. Number 7, last action, buy a property. It normally costs 5 Haggleoffs, but this price can go up or down via game effects. And that's it for a turn. Remember, you must draw 3 cards before your turn ends. However, if your hand ever goes above 5 cards and someone calls you out on it, you have to immediately discard down to 5 cards. And you pay the bank 1 money, and then you gotta pay 1 money to the person that called you out. When the bank empties, everyone just counts up how much money they have. Then everyone gets taxed a certain amount on that cash money. Like if you have 24 Haggleoffs, you are considered middle class and get taxed the most. Then factor in the tax breaks, and then get taxed for property you own. Then whoever has the most remaining cash has Haggleoffed the best. Okay, before we end the how to play, it technically says in the rules that the discard is supposed to be face down when you're playing, so you'll have a deck and then a face down discard. But then since players can look through it at any time, we just figured, yeah, let's just have it face up. Pros! Component pros time. Game has a nice insert, fits all the cards, no need for plastic bags, and the game is really fast to set up. Take out this deck, deal out 1 property to each player. Money's ready. Then everyone draws 3 cards, or deal out 3 cards to everyone, and you're ready to start. Also, Haggleoff has some really good card quality, especially important for a game that's timed. It's not that slippery, but it feels like it could take a bunch of wear. Reminds me of casino quality playing cards, but just less slippery. Next, I couldn't wait to talk about this. That is, Haggleoff has some of the most compelling art plus name choices in cards for a game I've ever seen. They're just so compelling and so easy to say. Let's get into some of these 10 names. Wiggy, the energy developer. Tilly, the shopper. Moozy, the cowboy. Bugsy, the tech guy. Clausby, who sounds a lot like a canceled guy, but is actually a great play on words for a lawyer. I mean, the thematic charm doesn't really matter that much in the scope of the game. They're all just ways to get money in differing set distributions, slightly weighted for theme, but man, it is so endearing to look at these. It also works so well because this is a trading game where you're constantly trading these cards, and they just roll off the tongue so well and are easy to remember. I'll trade 2 Bugsies for 3 Tillies, 1 Clausby for 1 Wiggy, and awesome to think about each card's value, as some can get completed really early for a quick payout, and some have an incredible payout at tier 3. Basically, all these cards are very charming, and they all feel different enough. The 7 power cards also have a lot of personality. A discussion about certain parties with the Stomp and Bray. Then the Realtor Wiggles is so happy to see Arrow go up. Their insurance adjuster holding a clipboard with claims. Ha ha ha. And there's even a shark investor. Even the money design is hilarious. A George Washington bald eagle for this Haggleoff reserve note. Then there's a unique back with the United Haggies of Haggleoff. Okay, so now let's get right into the gameplay pros. So the first decision to have this game be a timed game really goes hand in hand with the name Haggleoff. Having 60 seconds to decide how to trade, how to play your cards, or how to donate cards, it just works really well to keep the game feeling frantic and also engaged on every single turn. And shout out to the game letting you draw at any point during your turn. This is especially important if you want to empty your hand, say it's 4 cards, and well, you want to draw 3 cards? You can't, so you got to trade first. This matters because when you're trading, now you're anxious to get rid of cards in hand, so someone else could actually filibuster you to stall for time. This gets elevated by the system letting you do IOUs, so you can go hard on bigger trades if you want, like, oh, give me 1 card and $1, then I'll owe you 2 of your favorite card, Muzi. Okay, fine, 3. Or you give me your whole hand. Yeah, I know, you could have played those yourself. So I'll give you 4 Wiggies and 3 Muzis whenever I see them. The whole honoring the deal catching is also pretty cool, because you can decide not to honor the deal and play the cards for yourself. If you get caught, you'll lose 2 money, but just keep it under wraps and you get rewarded. See how this game is trying to do a bunch of fun chaos trickery to keep everyone engaged? However, not everything is just straight silly chaos, just playing cards as fast as you can, messing with people for trades, because one of the gameplay pros that really surprised me was how the game immediately ends when the cash pile runs out, and this is done really well. To clarify, when the money runs out, the game immediately ends, and then if you owe debt to anyone, like you owe someone 3 cards, well, that's considered -3 money for you. And so you can make a bunch of trades to end the game before the person who has the best board can cash out. That's a nice way to reward board state tracking and good dealing. Like in our last game, I sensed that the game was going to end soon, and I was making trades with the person right after me who was about to cash big, because I just didn't think they could beat me after all the cashing out. I just wanted them to deplete the cash pile ASAP. Then combine this with the charity mechanic, which is simple, but works really well for a simple trading game. So it's basically a second discard pile that you're discarding tax breaks to anytime during the game. So it means that no card is ever dead in your hand, especially for those more situational power cards that you can just dump there. So every card has dual use, which is more to think about. Do you play it or you donate it? You could even think about every card as triple use because you could trade it. But when you donate a card, you have to note that someone else could take it later. This led to hands feeling quite dynamic at times because, sure, while you're capped at drawing 3 cards from the deck, anyone can take from charity. And so it's like an extra +1 draw every turn. And so there's never too many cards in charity. It just kept cycling stuff. It also makes completing sets much easier as now you have more knowledge of, oh, maybe I could take a card from here to complete my set later on. Lastly, the charity lets people card count in a more interesting way, as we note that every card has a quantity on the top right corner, which can really matter if you start getting up there in the quantity for sets, or if you're worried about someone playing the counter on you when you bank heist. It felt pretty satisfying to having go through each of these discards, and then our hand, and then our other players' board states to maximally play well. Ultimately, there's just a lot in the game to make you question starting new sets, or deciding how hard to commit to a set you already played for. Like maybe you could already make some money from it, but you want to push your luck to go harder. You could always try to trade your entire hand for missing pieces, or just play those cards to start new sets. Sometimes you just want to cash out now as you see multiple copies of that card in this card, and people are being too stingy on trading. That's business, baby, cash out. Or maybe you decide to invest in another property for more sets for more flexibility, but less cash on hand now. Maybe you hope the game goes a little bit longer. And I have to stress that there's a lot of tension on cashing out at the right time because those are worth 0 if the game ends and you have those on property still. The last gameplay pro is that the power cards are a pretty nice addition in general to do some more fun plays here. So yes, there are just generically take that power cards, like this card can reverse the player order, or how this judge, by forgiving a debt, is kind of like a wild card. But let's go into some more interesting ones I found, like the bank heist. Yes, it seems a little silly that if you get it negated, you lose your entire hand and are forced to end your turn. But then if you're tracking people's hands well, you could manage to save up a bunch of these and play them when there's no counter for a massive turn. 1 card for 3 money straight up is incredible. Or the Realtor, which lets you change the property prices. So you can decrease the property price, then buy a bunch. Then if you have another Realtor, you could just raise the price afterwards. In fact, this combos really well with the Stomp and Bray, because you can literally force the sale of a property, your own or someone else's. So you could raise the price to 10 and then sell your property to the bank to end the game. Or if you see someone really close to hitting the next threshold in their set, you just force them to sell it early. So they gotta sell at the current price. That's definitely some evil. We could see this coming through in a trade deal. So you're like a hitman who can do eminent domain on someone else for a price. Also, the fact that power cards are considered a tax break in themselves make their charity interaction surprisingly smooth, as you can take them from charity to prevent others from using them, and then just later on donate it for a guaranteed 1 tax break. The last pro is that this game has a bunch of theme mini gameplay well, aside from the ones we already mentioned, like the one where the middle class gets squeezed the hardest in taxes. Here's another one: having 4 or more properties at the end of the game is more taxes because you just got more real estate. And the way charity works is that you're often using it as a haven to ditch unneeded cards. But hooray, you get celebrated from doing it. And then when people are in need, they're just grabbing all those resources from charity. And so the charity pile ultimately ends up being a lot smaller than it initially seemed. And we can definitely see what they're trying to say by making the defense contractor, MAV, the best value by basically being worth $1 at worst. And then the lawyer, doctor, or software engineers are all amazing ways to make money. Cons. To start cons, we gotta talk about the app. Now, this is on Haggleoff.com and it's called Tax 404. I know, pretty funny, which is just a way to keep track of things in game, like your tax breaks, and then your debts owed, and then also end game scoring and your time for each turn. So the way to play is on phone, and it is smooth with no lag, but it keeps clearing your power cards donated when you swipe off to the next player. So our solution was to just have everyone do Tax 404 for themselves, and then use it to keep track of everyone's own time, then to mentally keep track of their power card donations just in case. And the tax bracket number earned is way too small. And speaking of small, it was way too fiddly to keep track of debts to other players. Look at all this. Oh my gosh. Adding, subtracting this, it's just a lot. So we just ended up using pen and paper, so you could write exactly what the debt was as fast as possible and not go through this, because remember, turns are timed, so you need to go fast. Then it's a bit confusing how it mentions that you can donate cash, a term that is never used anywhere else in the game. So when you look at the rules, it says that you can donate coin. So what about cash? Okay, so you need to go to the start of the rulebook and note that they're talking about Haggleoff cash, as Haggleoff cash equals coin. Look, these rules things need to be precise, okay? We can't just be throwing around new terms. And I know that this game is probably going for simple to learn and it's already pretty easy to set up, but actually this game is just lacking some components. Why not have a player aid to describe all the 7 actions you can do on a turn? After all, the property cards you're using are pretty much blank on the back, so you could have written something here. Or have a tracker for every player so they can keep track of their donations if they don't want to use the online browser website. Or just come with sheets of paper to organize your charity progress and taxes. I mean, the rules even has this nice example here. Even a timer would have been greatly appreciated, because we found it nice to have a timer that everyone could see for someone's turn, because you don't have an incentive to call out when your own turn ends, and the website doesn't have a sound or vibration when time hits 0. And speaking of this game being timed, we don't like how the money is paper. We're not sure how long this will physically last with the game being frantic. And know how quantity of payouts can start getting big. Then if you want to pay out and then you have to fumble through this paper money, you're spending a good time of your turn just counting money. If this is intentional with its satire to say that big transactions can be messy, they got it. But again, it doesn't work with the timing element unless you're all super speedy. So then you're just pretty much always recommended to cash out at the end of your turn, so you're allowed to finish that cash out action as per written. The other big issue is that the rulebook is super confusing, and I know I said this is subject to change, but I want to call out some things just because it was just so weird to go through. Like, it doesn't even mention that the power cards, these ones, go in the main deck. So we had no idea how to play the game because where do the power cards go? So eventually we clarified with the designer. The rules will also do this cheeky thing of having little quips or asides throughout the text, which can throw you off with its focus on satire. Like during setup, it'll say, oh, you start with 1 free property, but you can't sell it. Sorry, no flippin' freebies. Okay, haha, I get it. They're trying to say, oh, no flippin' freebies, right? But someone might think, oh, what is flipping? Is that a mechanic? Is freebie a type of terminology I should know for later? Like, it later uses the term local politician, which really made us think they were just saying silly flavor, but it was joined with actual game terms. Turns out they're referring to the card politicians with stop and bray. Okay, and local is just there for flavor. This needs to be way, way more clear. Gameplay cons time. So we have the power cards, and the first element I want to talk about them is there's just way too much text on them for a game that's timed. Every single power card has between 2 to 3 abilities. So the first time you draw them, you're just kind of overwhelmed and you're thinking, I don't know what to do with them. I guess I'll just donate them. That seems like the safe play. And then someone else will just take it from the discard, so then you get punished. Or sometimes you don't realize the full text and you just play them. And in the case of playing Heist, you get punished hard. Some of these should really be split up into 2 cards. I mean, they're already dual use because of the charity discard. So it's not like these are going to be dead in your hand anyways. Oh, and then the right side of some power cards really need to be smoothened out because it will refer to cost with one of the abilities. But it isn't quite clear because the text is sideways. So just end up ignoring it and being confused. If it's only for one ability, there should definitely be an arrow. And so we got to bring up the investor, where its bottom ability of payout to stack 2 investor cards is super underpowered, as you would never use it. Because there's only 2 copies of this card in the game, and the top ability of bringing you to the next tier is so much better. So that bomb ability should be retweaked. Also, it's a bit too punishing that the insurance adjuster and the investor literally do the same thing, except that insurance adjuster requires you to pay 5 money. We get what they're trying to say, but costing 5 more is just too weak. Should be like 2 to 3 Haggleoffs more. Okay, last con, some of the stuff should start scaling with player count. For example, the stop and break, since it affects turn order, this should change based off player count, and currently there's only 2 copies of it, so yeah, have more copies if there's a lot of people. Or maybe there should be more money the more players there are. There's currently 100 Haggleoffs, but maybe this is too many Haggleoffs for 2 players. Scoring! Now it's time for a recommender score on Haggleoff, where we try to critically evaluate the aforementioned pros and cons, with the caveat of whether or not this is even a good idea in the first place. And this is a chaotic, satirical trading game to try to complete sets, where every turn is timed to try to get the best sets to cash out, get the most money. Seems fine. So this is gonna get a 6 out of 10. It is above average. So you may ask, wait, how is this a recommender score if the game is available for pre-order? By the way, you can use our code for 10% off. Well, that's because the designer insisted that this is the final game. So even if the rules are straightened out, which I definitely imagine will happen, I even got a slightly tweaked version of the rules via email, there's still an odd shortage of components to elevate the score to a 7 out of 10, despite the main core being very solid. The first game is just way too confusing for what the game is, which isn't good for player retention, because even if it is funny and whimsical and cute, it also has to be clear about what you're doing while playing. The game just putting a lot more responsibility on the players to track themselves and learn the game than we would like, but Haggleoff, yeah, it meets its goals pretty darn well. And it encourages ridiculous IOUs you can do with other players while even filibustering with the time, so you can waste people time and bother them while the time counts down. Gameplay wise, this is a solid fit if you have a very talkative group that will just kind of do anything to win, like going into debt so that someone owes you 5 cards, and then you just end the game extremely quickly. I was reading some of the strategies that the designer sent me, and some of them even include sleight of hand, like when you play the robber card, you play it face down with other cards so that people can't tell you're playing the robber. So that kind of shows the headspace of what this is going for. Or apparently you can even make a deal with someone else for a lifetime supply of a certain card. And it's technically not even considered a debt for endgame scoring. Yeah, the rulebook doesn't mention that, but that is an intention with the freeform trading. So if you've played Bonanza, but now you want the feeling of playing take that power cards and even more freedom to trade, yeah, maybe you can upgrade from being a bean farmer to a money haggler, haggle offer in political satire here. This is trading meets chaos meets political satire if you're really into that.
Draw 5? I'm gonna draw 10. Can you draw one more? Draw one more real quick. No, I don't want to.
I have Moosey.
I want either a Moosey or a Cosby. Yeah, Moosey?
Yeah.
I'll show you one of these. I literally had a Wally. We could have made that trade. You could have. I'm gonna adopt the bugs.
I have these 2.
What does Charity do again?
And if we look at the take that cards and simple set collecting, this is way better than Monopoly Deal mechanically, but suffers from much lower accessibility, and that matters for this type of genre of game. It's one of those games with clear heart that I think would have easily got ignored based off its front cover and back. Like, look, it says designed in California, made in China, inspired in Texas, inspired in Texas? What does that even mean? And I've been told that this game is even trying to be educational for a middle school level, and yeah, there's nothing that complicated with any card, and the art is pretty whimsical and probably universally appreciated. I think it's cool. I'm sure kids would like it. Also, apparently this is trying to get a STEM certification, so maybe it could be taught in schools. Don't know how something with this theme would be allowed in every school, but hey, it's interesting. For my personal score of Haggleoff, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I have a good time with it. In fact, Bonanza, out you go. Don't need you anymore, because now if I want to get that sort of trading feeling in a shorter-ish game, Haggleoff all the way. See, I like the hand mechanic of Bonanza, and completing sets was always satisfying, but always felt like there was something missing in Bonanza for me to return to it. In Haggleoff, there's more mechanics added on, like the charity discard and grab, and then the power cards, and then the endgame being interesting. This is way more interesting for me. Now the game feels less Euro-y, a fairly stagnant hand and forward progression, and now more of like a party game meets TCG with the discard rummaging and sussing out when the game ends. In fact, I think the amount of power you can exert when the game ends is how this game continued to grow on me from the first to the second game. And pair that with how every turn is timed And yeah, I feel like I have some funny agency on a game where it still has a lot of RNG as you draw cards, because I can mess with people's trades or try to creatively come up with one quickly. We're all just haggle offers while playing this. And for the billionth time, shout out again to the Animal Farm looking cards. I thought I wouldn't like it that much, but I just can't stop chuckling every time I look at these. And their value is always changing in game as sets get placed and the bank depletes. It's fun to think about. And then I think this game has a lot of room for an expansion through new power cards, probably replacing the old ones too, or maybe property cards to have a special ability, or to just clean up a lot of the wording. Now, unfortunately, I wouldn't play it with family, even though they would like the theme, because tracking the tax donations and then charity is probably too much for them. But I would definitely play it with non-board gamers my age, who are definitely okay with upkeep, and I'm taking more of their personal responsibility to set up the game and explain all the jank. Paper money will do for now. And yeah, I'm excited to see what more creative trades we come up with. There's going to be more Wiggies and Tillies and Clausbees and Mugsies and Bugsies and Moosies, and yeah, it's refreshing. It's kind of refreshing to just have a game that is a lot of trading but simple. But it's not just trading. Basically, the game is quite endearing to me. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. And since there's more than just trading going on, fun for me. Like those card plays. Oh, thank you to our patrons for making videos like this possible. And our Mad Lads of Cardboard.
Sure. Oh, you too? After this? Yeah. Sure. Easy peasy. A good deal for both of us.
Easy peasy.
Oh, and I'm just gonna scrap this because this thing sucks. I'll trade you a Tilly for a Twiggle. What's a Twiggle? I don't know the real term. It's the real term. Dumping this, dumping this. I'm gonna dump.
Sure you want to give it to me?
Are you discarding or charity?
Discarding, and I'm gonna charity one for
Sure you want to give it to me?
$3 for $1. Charity. I'm gonna draw 3. I'm gonna call myself.